Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. We have a great webinar lined up for you. I actually just realized as we go live that I didn't pull the slides for this, but it was just a title slide, and that's okay. So today's webinar is about lowering your marketing costs, and I'm going to give you guys a minute to file in here. While those who are already in the webinar, I'd love for you to throw in the chat. I do like to ask you where you're from, what your business is, or what is your industry, and also what is your role in your company? Are you contact center manager? Are you a CSR? Are you a marketing director? It's always good to know who we're talking to. And I want to throw in another question in there just for fun. Let's just go with, if you have a pet, what is your pet's name? There's typically some good pet names. I just want to get some good pet names today.
I like it.
Kenny is from why can't I say that? Waterford, Michigan. Roofing, siding, and windows. CMO. Great to have you, Kenny. Robin, I have seen you before, Robin. It's great to see you again. Woodbridge, Virginia. Exterior remodeling, office manager. And don't forget to put your pet's name in here. This is the most important piece of information. If you don't have a pet, but if you would own a pet, I can't use my words today. What would you name your pet? I'll also let you guys know, my name is Kristen. I'm the head of marketing at Hatch, and I have a cat. His name is Arnold. I did not name him that, although I'm a big fan of human names for pet names. He was adopted. All right, we got Autumn Tub today, St. Charles, Illinois, French Bulldog named Sushi. See, that is good. Nice little bundle, a little roll up. Now we got a lot of chats coming in here. Deirdre, commercial coordinator in sales, air conditioning and cooling. Tempe, Arizona, pets Bentley and Tango. My cat's name is Cat. That is so original, Kenny. I think you're actually serious with that, and that makes me laugh. Drew, insulation, CSR, great to have you. All the hats. CSR marketing manager, all the hats. Frog and Edge. Home Spec, am I saying that right, Shelby? In Michigan, no pets. Used to have a dog named Busy. Kathy, Kitty, Hazel, and Callie. And then we got Madison, marketing manager. Cool. Robin, Loki, and Gracie, Lulu, and Beans, ferrets. This is great. Keep them coming, guys. I am going to introduce myself. I'm going to introduce our speaker today. We have Tom Peregrino here. He is the president of Service Nation. In fact, you guys may have noticed in the emails, I actually got his title wrong. I said he was a VP of Operations and Member Services, and it turns out he's the president. So we are very lucky to have the president of Service Nation here on our webinar. Tom, go ahead, introduce yourself if you have anything else you want to say.
Absolutely. Well, first, I got to jump in and tell you our pets. We've got.
Oh, yeah. What was I thinking?
No, we've got a 14-year-old. I'm going to say mutt that we rescued, and his name is Jack. He's hanging in there. Okay. And then we now have a new little dog called Coco, which is a little mini Aussie, and that's Jack's little buddy that we've had for the last 3 years. So, man, nice. I'm a big pet lover.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Aussies are great. My uncle is a big Aussie fan. He has an Aussie as well.
Yeah. As long as you keep them busy, yes, they're great. But if not, they're crazy.
You can also name your dog Busy, because somebody did in the chat.
Yeah, Kristen, thanks for having me today. Love Hatch. That goes without saying. You guys have a great platform. It ties so well into this topic with marketing. And so, yeah, love Hatch. You guys take really good care of our members all over the country. So, I look forward to joining you on this webinar and see if I can help contractors. Title aside, I'm a contractor at heart. I was a contractor for 21 years. That's how I talk. That's how I think. And so hopefully over the next, 55 minutes or so, I can give them some real meat from lessons I've learned, from things we've seen from many high-performing contractors at Service Nation all over the country. So no matter where you're at, some of these best practices and things that I deployed on my own journey as a contractor, I know is going to make a big difference for you. So hopefully all the attendees have a notepad and a pen and can jot some of this stuff down.
Great. Well, we're excited to have you, Tom. We appreciate your time. And if anybody is not aware, this webinar, it's about, the main theme is lowering your cost of marketing. We're going to kind of cover everything though. And like Tom said, he's going to share his story in a second because he's kind of worn all the hats. And one other thing I do want to share is for those of you who are not Hatch users, I know we have a mix on here. If you're not aware of what Hatch is an AI CSR platform for home service businesses. And by that, I mean kind of two things. First is we are AI powered and we do help CSRs, ISRs, especially with those like scaling those revenue driving conversations, right? So you have marketing platforms that allow you to put out emails and kind of text in this way of kind of doing like, I guess you could call it one to many messaging where it just kind of goes out in front of them. There's really nothing that they can do. Maybe they respond back. But Hatch is designed to drive those one-on-one conversations that are hyper targeted. And then when somebody responds back to you, you can actually manage that conversation in one place. You can manage them all at ease. It's a nice, people that are currently using Hatch can let you know in the chat that it is, it makes it easy to manage. And then the other part is the AI CSRs. So we are spending a lot of time building out our AI product. And these are dynamic AI agents that will interact with your customers. They text them, they email them, you fill out a business profile, they turn into an expert in your business. And they take care of all those conversations until a human is needed. So we're not really replacing anybody's job. We're just taking the burden off of you from having to, ask those same questions day in and day out. So that's just a brief pitch on what Hatch is. At the end of this webinar, we are going to launch a poll and you'll have an opportunity to kind of raise your hand if you want to learn more about Hatch or Service Nation. But we're going to give you plenty of time to find out if that's what you actually want. So, Tom, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly give you guys an agenda and then we'll launch in. So I want to spend the first couple minutes I really want Tom to kind of share his story, his journey into Service Nation, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Service Nation, and then we'll launch into kind of the main affair, the lowering your marketing cost, and then at the end we will open it up to questions. But I want to encourage you all, you can ask questions while we are talking. If you see your question disappear, it's because we moved it into the Q&A section. It'll just help us to keep all our questions in one place and we can make sure that we answer them all. And we also appreciate any feedback you have. If you have any input that you want to share, this is a really good knowledge sharing environment. All right. That being said, Tom, I recently listened to a podcast that you had done. I think it was with Service Fusion, and you shared your story, and I just thought it was really cool. So can you take a few minutes to kind of share your journey from basically a banker to Service Nation?
Yes, yeah. But let this be known right off the bat. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Let me just go back in time. I don't want to spend a lot of time on my biography because I want to help you guys with marketing. But back in 1995, when my second daughter was coming along, got lots of bills to pay. Knew Hannah, our youngest, was going to be very expensive, and I was working at a bank in Walmart as an assistant manager. So don't think it was anything glamorous. I was opening up new accounts in a Walmart in my hometown. And I told my wife, I said, listen, I think I was making $26,000 a year at that time back in 1995. And I said, listen, man, I got to make more money. And so I answered an old-fashioned ad in the newspaper. Oh, that's Coco that you heard barking in the back. I apologize.
That's okay. We know you weren't lying when you said you had 2 dogs.
I apologize. Okay, so the ad was for an HVAC comfort consultant, and it said I could make up to $75,000 paid training. And I was like, man, I'm going to take a risk. And so I answered the ad. I got the position. Within 12 months, I doubled my income, and I never looked back. So I got into the trades. I didn't know anything. I got in through HVAC. That's my journey as a contractor. I'm an HVAC contractor at heart, but I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. And over the years, I went from comfort consultant to the install manager, to the office manager, to the service manager, to the general manager, learning all along the way, made a ton of mistakes. And then around 2016, I heard about this company, Service Nation. And Service Nation said, hey, we've got it all figured out. You don't have to recreate the wheel. What do you want? And I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I've been hitting my head against the wall for years. And so I joined Service Nation as a contractor. And over that 5-year period from 2016 to 2021, I mean, I had massive growth and profitability by implementing all their best practices. So there's nothing new under the sun. So much of what I'm going to share with you guys, anybody can do it. I've had tons of mentors that have helped me along the way. But 2021 gave me the opportunity to sell the company to my partner at the time. I had a minority partner. Handed it off to him. He's doing well. He's about 9 years younger, so he's kind of like my brother and my son in a certain degree. So
Yeah,
he's got it. He's on his journey as a contractor. And then because I loved Service Nation so much on what they did for my business and then for my life, I went ahead and joined Service Nation as first a coach, consultant, and then in 2023 had the opportunity to lead the organizations. So that's a quick bio.
nice job. That was very wrapped up. Great. And then one more thing, because I know not everybody on the call is a member of Service Nation. Can you give a quick description of what Service Nation is?
Yeah, so Service Nation's tagline is Total Contractor Solutions. So for a contractor in the home service space, we can meet all your needs as the owner and the manager, and including all your frontline people. From our buying group that helps you get better prices, to all the training that you can imagine, all the systems and processes and software, you name it. That's why it's Total Contractor Solutions. And so a contractor will join us on their journey, as I mentioned earlier, they could be at zero, where they're just starting out from scratch, or they can join us at 300 million. It depends on what their goals are. We have, over 5,000 contractors that we take care of across the country, including Canada. And for the last 20 years, we've just cranked out the most success stories compared to any other consulting firm in the home service space. I mean, we've been doing it for so long. And so the recipes we have, our ability to jump into any area of your business and either put the fires out, solve the problems, show you how to scale, we've got that. And so that's a little bit information about Service Nation.
Great. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth noting what you said. Like, it doesn't really matter what size you are, because no matter what size, like if you're looking to grow, like we talk about this a lot at Hatch, the expansion trap. Whatever it took you to get to a certain milestone may not be the same things that it's going to take you to get to the next milestone. And so getting in a member group and just getting mentorship from people at different stages of their business is definitely helpful.
For sure. Yeah. When the owner changes, when the owner grows, the business grows.
Yep.
It's really just that simple. Yeah.
Cool. Well, all right, let's jump in. So I want to ask you a few questions, Tom. The first one was, so you talked about really having like a super low cost of marketing. I think it was like 3% when because you had started off, I think you were saying like for 4 or 5 years, you were just basically like spinning your wheels trying to, once you had bought the company from the owner at the time, right? You were trying to transform it and you couldn't. And
Right.
so like, can you reflect to me, like, what were some of the mistakes that you were making now in retrospect? Like, what were some of the mistakes that you were making? And I'm sure that'll kind of segue into like, what are the strategies to do? But yeah, just curious on that.
Absolutely. This reminds me of one of the things we would tell our new team members when they would join us in their onboarding. We'd tell them that you'll never make as many mistakes as the owners. I have cost the company more money than any other team member, maybe combined, just from lessons learned,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing better, not having the right coach at the right time. And so if you look back before I joined Service Nation, when I had the opportunity to run the company on my own, when I bought the original founder out, uh, I was just wading water. I remember back then regarding marketing, I had heard that if you carve out 10% of your marketing, 10% for marketing, 10% of revenue, it's going to solve all your problems. But it wasn't. I was spending money, but the phone wasn't ringing. And then the next year, I'd spend another 10%. And it wasn't until I realized that one, I didn't have the right mindset with marketing. Two, I wasn't operating off of the best practices regarding marketing. And the mindset and the best practice kind of goes to what is the foundation of really having effective marketing. And what that is the owner, especially early on their journey, on their way to, let's just say, their first stop at 10 million in revenue, the owner needs to master the mindset and best practices of marketing. More often than not, Kristen, what we see, and it was the case for me early in my journey, is if I just wanted to sub it out to somebody, let me give you money for marketing. I can blame you if it doesn't work. I don't really understand it. Just here's the money. And I'm just going to cross my fingers and toes and pray that the phone's going to ring. And what I show contractors, that is actually the most expensive way to manage a marketing department. What should happen foundationally is any home service owner, whether it's a roofer, solar, HVAC, plumber, they need to do the same thing they did to become technically proficient. Most of the time, home service owners were a technician of some form or fashion. Maybe they were an installer of some form or fashion, and they got really good at their trade. They mastered it.
Yep.
They start their company and they start growing it because they're really good. And if it's them, they've got their little buddy, their little helper, maybe they have someone in the office, and they're growing it because they've mastered the trade. They're talking to all the homeowners, but then they get to this point in growth where they flatline, or they become unprofitable. And what ends up happening is they never decided to become technically proficient in marketing.
Mm.
And so when we challenge an existing contractor's mindset that they need to go back to school,
Yep.
it's time for them to learn to be a
Basics.
master at marketing. Then what they end up doing is they make much, much better decisions. Yeah. They understand the reports that they're getting from their marketing vendors. They're tracking ROI like never before. They're perfecting meeting the needs of their specific avatar.
Yeah.
For most of them, it's going to be, baby boomers and Gen Xers. Once they master the mindset and best practices of marketing, then at that time, they could hand it over to a marketing manager or director and oversee them.
Yep.
But painfully, oftentimes when we're working with contractors, we got to say, it's time for you to go back to school. You got to go back to school. And we
Yep.
want you to be just as good with marketing as you were as an installer and technician years ago.
Yeah.
Let's get you there. Because when a contractor gets their master's degree in marketing, their company radically changes
Yep.
because they now know how to get leads like never before and low cost leads that are high quality.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got on a little soapbox there. I don't know if we got
No,
off
it's
track, but
okay. You're
it's
fine.
such a key.
It's definitely makes sense. You know, there are people that you can be the best in your trade, but if you can't accurately communicate your message, then you're not gonna be able to grow. And it's not just communicating your message, but like you said, that doesn't mean you shouldn't outsource your marketing. It doesn't mean you shouldn't hire on a marketing person, but you really need to understand the basics. And that doesn't mean you have to go back to college, but some basic courses. I know that if you're a Service Nation member, you can absolutely get your education there. So any of you that are, even if you're not an owner, I mean, I don't think we have many owners on this call today, but if you are a marketing director, maybe you have inherited that role, maybe you have a marketing degree, great. If you are not, brush up on your marketing skills, because marketing really comes down to communication, psychology, emotion. It's those basic things. And like Tom is saying, you get those basics down, even just like do an hour crash course, it will change your mindset and the way that you communicate internally with your coworkers.
Absolutely. You know, at first, when they look at mastering marketing, oftentimes they're like, I don't know where to start. But certainly within Service Nation, we begin having highly successful marketing contractors just start working with them side by side.
Yep.
That way they don't recreate the wheel.
Right.
They can begin teaching them mindset, best practices, and proper implementation best practices to get all the marketing launched, to
Yep.
get fully diversified. It's so much easier than just trying to self-navigate by searching on Facebook for marketing best practices or Googling all day long. Instead, if you're at 5 million, let's hook you up with somebody at 15 million, and then just execute on what they tell you to do, because they know exactly where you're at 5 million, and they know exactly how to get you to 15 regarding marketing. And you just execute, 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 execute.
Yep. Yep. And one thing, I want to talk a little bit. I want to get into some of what that looks like action wise. I know it's not something you can do overnight. It is a mindset change, but there are some tangible things. And I know this will be really helpful for the people on the call today. Number one is branding, prioritizing branding over like PPC, SEO. Like, you've got to get your brand foundation set first. And I think that was a mistake that you had made, right, Tom? You were kind of neglecting the branding first. You were putting the cart before the horse. Am I right there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, when my mentors and coaches came in 2016, they're like, "Oh man, we gotta go back to the basics, Tom." And you don't know what you don't know. I thought I was doing pretty good. And so if you look at the mindset of branding, it's very similar to dating.
Yep.
There's not, it's very similar. You had mentioned psychology and really understanding, your consumer. So I want you to think that the second foundational piece to marketing is we want to make sure your branding is dialed in tight. And this is what it looks like when I compare it to dating. Okay. You need to know exactly who the customer is that you want to date. Now, for many of the contractors, regardless of the trade, for many of them, it's going to be the baby boomer first. And then after that, once you meet all the baby boomers' needs, then you're going to meet the needs of the Gen Xers.
Yep.
Now, if we go back to the baby boomers in terms of dating them really, really well, okay, as a general rule, you're going to take a look at the husband and wife, and you're going to say, okay, in large purchases that take place with a home service contractor, who ends up ultimately making the final decision or blessing it? And more often than not, statistically, it's the female baby boomer and or the female Gen Xer. Now, that's just statistically, the majority is that case. If you've got a husband in the house that wants to invest 15,000 in X, they're going to stop what they're doing and check with their spouse, with their wife, and say, hey, at minimum, what do you think?
Right.
This is what I think we should do. If they don't, they have learned painfully in their marriage that they will suffer the consequences.
Right.
And so baby boomers are older, they've been further along in their journey, and they don't want the house, they want peace in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the dating aspect. If you take a fresh look, if a contractor takes a fresh, impartial look at who they are, how they answer the phone, what their logo looks like, what their unique selling proposition is, what colors did they have surrounding the brand, the motto, the mascot, more often than not, they realize, oh man, no wonder I haven't gotten dates.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I'm not dateable. I'm
Well,
not dateable.
yeah. You don't have like a, because you can be running a company, right? And the company can have a name, it can have a logo, but if it doesn't have a personality, like nobody wants to date a robot, right? And so when you give, what Tom is saying is like, you need to know your it's not just your customers, you have to know their persona. You have to put yourself in their shoes, understand who you're talking to, and then you have to know what your story is. So, a really good exercise for this is like, I do marketing for software, right? But we have certain periods of time where like maybe somebody new comes on, or we want to do kind of a fresh look on our website. And like, I have to think like, what is our brand story? And like, it's all here in my head, but like, how good am I at writing it down and articulating it? What are the words? Like, what are the emotions we want to come to mind? What are the colors? And if you can't really like write that down in a solid documentable form, then you've got work to do on your branding. And it's not a bad thing. Like, it's actually a good thing. It means that you probably are going to improve in your marketing in the next couple of months. But, even something as basic as like, go ask ChatGPT, be like, quiz me on my brand. Quiz me. I'm a CSR for this, for this department in this business. Like, ask me 6 questions about my brand and see how well you can answer them. And if you can't answer them that well, then you've got some work to do, but it's a good thing. So having like a very well documented brand identity is really key. And, like Tom said, it comes down to your logo, the colors that you use, even like, the leadership, the way that you train your CSRs and the things that you want them to say on the phone, it all comes into that personality. Would you be dateable? Would somebody want to go on a date with you?
Yeah. And so if you look at the parallels for dating, if somebody goes online via SEO or pay-per-click, in other words, they're searching for a contractor, that's the equivalent of them downloading a dating app and looking for a date, a
Yep.
boyfriend or a girlfriend, potentially. And so more often than not, if I look at your website, we have coaches look at your website, and we start analyzing how dateable is this information? Is it really getting the female baby boomer and female Gen Xer comfortable and feeling good about picking up the phone and doing business with you? Then they start getting it. They're like, oh, I'm not communicating what the experience is like to do business with me. If you think about those dating apps, somebody will click on your profile and they'll see you playing with your dogs. They'll see you going on hiking trips. And for the consumer, that gives them more and more and more confidence to do business with you.
Yep.
The reviews are your reputation, and the reviews let them know okay, is this safe?
Other
Because they
people
look
trust you.
really good, but what has everybody else said? What's this guy's reputation or this
Yep.
lady's reputation? And so back to the basics is making sure that is dialed in tight, really, really good.
Yep.
Okay. But don't forget, that only satisfies the consumers that are looking for you in the moment through PPC and SEO. Those aren't high quality, low cost leads.
Yep.
The best leads and the branding best practices still apply to these. The best leads are word of mouth and referrals. Proper branding that is dialed in tight creates a referral and word of mouth machine that gets you off the crack of SEO and pay-per-click, because there's way too many contractors that are SEO and pay-per-click crackheads. We see it all the time.
Paper crack.
They, I know, it's just, I'm talking straight as a contractor. You know, we'll dive into somebody's marketing plan or budget and we'll say, all right, we want to see how much money you're spending on all these different marketing channels.
Yep.
And beginning on in their journey, Kristen, what we'll see is it's so out of whack on how much money they're spending on SEO and pay-per-click that they're just SEO pay-per-click crackheads. And
Yeah.
they have been told by these third parties, give me all your money
Generate
and
the
I'll get the
leads.
phone to ring.
And yeah.
And what ends up happening is the phone only rings when you have a non-loyal customer that is looking for service, doesn't know who to trust,
Yep.
and they call you. What you want to generate, once you get your branding dialed in, what you want to generate is as many referrals as possible. You want all those female baby boomers and Gen Xers talking about you
Yep.
all the time, which means that you gotta, and you may cover this too, or we may talk about this, but there's a ton of stuff you need to do to build out a powerful culture to make sure that every team member is embodying the power of the brand and is embodying all your core values. So they just rave about you. All right, I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, no, I think the key takeaway here is your branding is essential. We've talked about this on a few webinars already. And to Tom's point, you can generate as many leads as you want, but if you're not feeding your leads into a properly branded machine, you're basically just kind of like, I don't even know. You're not going to create like a flywheel effect. You're just, it's not there. You're operating from the outside in. With branding, you're operating from the inside out. So we've talked a little bit about what that looks like. We talked about the branding machine. Let's also talk about, the taking care of your leads. So, this is obviously what Hatch specializes in, but this is really important, is once you get the lead, what kind of experience are you providing? Can you share some of the best practices that you guys share over at Service Nation for that, like increasing that conversion on your leads?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the mindset principles that we advocate for is getting the contractor to see the customers not as customers, but as raving fans. We want them to not have an experience that this is a transaction, a one-time transaction between the customer and the contractor. The purpose of the transaction with the customer is to convert them into a raving fan that they will continue to talk about how awesome it was doing business with that contractor.
Yeah.
And so converting them from a customer to a raving fan, you really have to go back to the basics and do a customer journey mapping from the moment they hear about you to the experience they get on the phone, to the experience they get with the technician or installer, to the experience they get with the follow-up,
Yep.
and then the experience they get with the install, and then the experience they get with the follow-up after the install, and then how you treat them as an existing customer. There's an exercise I would encourage everyone to do that's on this call. And the exercise is to scratch out 2 columns. One column shows this is what we do on every call. And you just write down, okay, we take the phone call, then we book the lead, and then we go on the call. Map everything out. And then what I want you to do is on the second column, right next to it, what can you do that is unexpected that the customer had no idea you were going to do that could blow their minds? And what oftentimes you'll find is a typical contractor early on their journey is just doing the basics. Hey, the phone rang. I'll go out and see him. I'll put him in from, here's my window, 1 to 3 o'clock. Yeah, I'll do the work. I'll see you later. And then when they start building out that second column of what can I do that's unexpected, that if they embed that into their normal standard operating procedures of the customer journey, man, their referrals and word of mouth just go off the chart.
Yep.
This is the same behavioral science that goes into what a good waiter does.
Yep.
When you go to an awesome movie that cost a couple of $100 million to produce, you walk into that movie theater, your mind is blown, and you can't help but tell everybody about it, whether it's a good wait staff or a good movie or good whatever. Going back to the basics and perfecting how you deliver on that customer journey experience. Next thing you know, instead of having to be held hostage from direct mail or SEO and pay-per-click, your spending starts coming down like mine did because they just kept telling everybody, you got to do business with that company.
What were some of those unexpected kind of add-ins that you created for your customers for that experience?
Good question. So a couple of ones that come to mind in my particular case is early on in the journey in our advertising, we'd offer a free service call. So we educated the entire community that, hey, listen, if you needed something from us, hey, the service call's free. We're removing all the friction.
Yep.
In even the beginning transaction, all the friction. Okay. So you've got that. Then they know who's coming out. They've got the bios going to them. Hey, this is who's coming out. Oh, I didn't know that the person that's coming out is a Dallas Cowboy fan. And I didn't know this about them. So that's another thing that they didn't expect. I didn't know that they would do that. I didn't know that they would have a live person to answer the phone calls 24/7. I didn't know built into the home experience when we had the technician there, I didn't know that they would do extra stuff for free.
Yep.
That is a huge win. Again, going back to some of your great waiters, my wife just had a birthday. The waiter found out she had a birthday, and the waiter surprised my wife with a cake or a dessert. It was a cake with a candle, no charge.
Yep.
Okay. If you start building in nice surprises, whether it be a surprise discount, oh, hey, listen, I thought it would be this much. I quoted you this much to do it, but it's actually just this much. That's going to save you some money. You can design that ahead of time all into your system. In addition to that, the swag that we would leave behind for our homeowners. Here's another takeaway for the audience. You want to leave behind stuff that resides in the kitchen. You want to own that kitchen. So you want to have chip clips, letter openers. You want to have awesome grocery lists. You want to have coupons that fit in the drawer, because more often than not, they're not going to want to put a magnet on their refrigerator.
Right.
Not your high income female baby boomers. Okay.
Right.
You want to own the kitchen.
Love that.
And then they're like, wow, this is awesome. Here's my wine opener. Here's this, here's that.
Right.
And you're constantly reminding them, and they just think, man, everybody's got to do business with that company. They just keep surprising me.
And I think that goes back to like the branding, having that story, right? So like some people, like it's like an empty branding strategy. They could just put their business name everywhere. But if you don't have a core story that people can relate to, like, oh, they're the company that does this. They're the company that is always available 24/7. They're the company that like threw in an extra thing for me. That name isn't going to really resonate, right? So you need to make sure that those impressions are registering something in their head. And so again, it goes back to if your business was a person, how would you describe them? If they went to a party, who would they be at the party? Would they be the life of the party? Would they be the party planner? Like, think about how you want people to think of your business. And I think another, key point you made here, Tom, is mapping out the customer journey. This is something I'd be curious, people that are here, throw in the chat if you have have you ever documented out your customer's journey with your business? You might have it in your head, but let us know if you've ever documented it out. I don't know where my chat went. I think I minimized it. There we go. Have you ever documented your customer journey? And the reason I say that is, I mean, this is what we're all about. We make it so that you can hit customers at every key point in their journey. And so Tom is saying that there are things that you should do in your interaction with them. And then also the interactions themselves can be unexpected. So if a customer calls you, or if they fill out like a Google LSA form and you reach out to them right away, you've already made a good impression. Again, back to the dating theme. It's not like, hey, this person, like, we're so great. Like, do you want to do business with me? Like, you want to make it sound like you are pursuing them. You want them to date you. You want to be appealing. You are a fan of them. And then when maybe they don't answer right away, but you check in on them the next day. It's not pesky. Like, our cadences are not like meant to be like, hey. It's like the next day, hey, I didn't hear back from you. Do you still need help with this? Day 3, hey, just checking in. Sometimes people are at work, like they actually want to be followed up on. And then you do that all the way through the journey. So then, they book the appointment, you send them a confirmation. Your appointment is booked. Let us know if you have any questions. Tom was saying that, they let them know that, the technician going out is a Cowboys fan or whatever, like little details like that. And you can build that into your communication strategy. And so I want to share that for those of you who may not be using Hatch, those of you who are using Hatch can attest to this, but you can it's an automated way of reaching out to customers. Once they hit a trigger point, you can actually make sure you're sending a message out. And then when they engage back, then you can engage with them.
Yeah. And Kristen, if we could just stay on that for a second. So
yeah.
What you're referring to is the tool that makes sure the best practice of follow-up takes place. And so Hatch executes on the best practice of follow-up. And what contractors have to first also get is the mindset. And the mindset is this: following up on existing customers that come in on the customer journey, following up is non-negotiable. It has to happen. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
The responsibility of who follows up, the buck ultimately stops with the owner. When the owner understands how essential and critical leads are, and that they can make such a huge difference on lead flow and low customer acquisition cost, we soon get them to realize, man, I need to stay on point every step of that. The lead that we worked our butts off to spend money on marketing, the lead that I spent a fortune on rebuilding that website, that lead, I'm going to own that. Exactly. Every step of the way. And once they get the mindset, I own the leads. It's on the buck stops with me. Then they go, how do I use technology to keep up with the follow up? And that's where Hatch comes into
Right.
play.
Exactly.
You
Like
know,
it's not like, hey, how do I use automation to do less for my customers? Because some people are afraid of that. They don't want to use automation to replace the personal touch. But to your point, you're saying like follow up is a non-negotiable. It needs to happen with every single customer at every stage in the journey. And really the only way to do that is with automation. And you can personalize it. At least I know with Hatch, you can personalize that outreach. And then all it is pinging them. All it is saying, hey, like we thanks for letting us come out to your home the other day, like just checking in to see how that went. You don't even have to directly ask them about the quote. How did it go? Just get them to respond. You care about what their experience was like. You may want to directly follow up on the quote after the job was completed. How did everything go? Like once you've done the installation a year later, hey, just checking in, like all of that, just letting them know that you're thinking of them, it makes a huge difference. And we see countless customers, like you said, it's you buy that lead. If you think about it, like if you purchase a lead, sometimes a lead on buying a lead, cost per lead can be, $300, $400. So if you think about it, like writing a check for $300 to purchase a lead, like don't just let it sit on your shelf. Don't throw it like in the glove box, just let it stay there. Like actually work that lead. Once they become an appointment and a customer, continue providing that experience. Let them know what other services you provide. If they didn't become an appointment, follow up with them 6 months later, a year later with a promotion. Like they're yours. You bought them. And until they say no, you should keep reaching out to them.
yeah, absolutely. One of the mindset principles, I think I touched on it earlier in the hour, is if a contractor isn't carving out time to work on their marketing, certainly the educational portion, but if you look at some of your most engaged Hatch customers, I would argue that 9 times out of 10, you've got an owner that really understands your software platform.
Yeah.
And they've got somebody that is utilizing it every day, but they're watching it. They're looking at the data. They're guiding them, and so I know that's when the magic happens.
Yep.
What we don't want to see, whether it's Hatch or any other third-party marketing tool, is we don't want to see a contractor stroke a check and tell their CSR, hey, listen, I got this Hatch thing, figure out how to use it. And, I'll just wait till the phone. It's got to be the owner going all in with the right mindset. And you've probably seen far better results when owners are really, really involved in adopting it, learning how to work your software platform, maximizing the use. I mean, there's so much money left on the table by them not doing proper follow-up.
Yeah.
Tons of money.
Yeah. It can be the owner, but we also, we have plenty of clients who they have a pretty built out like marketing team. So there are a lot of marketing leaders. I would say like the non-best practice is to just leave it to a CSR or somebody and not know anything about it. But those who you can tell are invested, because, we have messaging templates and campaign templates, but they always take a little bit of tweaking, right? Like we have them based on best practices, but somebody who really cares about the strategy and knows, okay, I want to do these campaigns for this reason. They have internal knowledge of what messaging they want to go out. They're not going to want to just let it go. In fact, they'll probably spend more time in Hatch than they should because they can't give up that like quote unquote control, but it's a good thing because they want to make sure that it's the messaging that they want. I've heard it time and time again. People are like, I know that our customers are getting reached out to with the messaging that I want. If you don't know the messaging that you want for your customers, then that goes back to the branding. What message are you trying to convey to them? That's not like what's in the actual text message. What are you trying to make them feel when you reach out? Are you an authoritative brand? Are you more on the side of making them feel comfortable, confident? How do you want them to feel? I mean, all of it is positive stuff, but there are nuances here that you want to cover. And that's definitely key. And then we have people that are, dedicated. They they manage hatch throughout the day. It's not meant to just do it all for you. Even our AI CSRs, not meant to do it all for you. That would be a nightmare. It would be a terrible customer experience. They are there watching the AI have conversations. If the bot says something wrong, they go in there, they make a tweak. If it's time for the bot to pass it off to a human, they do it. So it's always just kind of tweaking in there and making sure it's working, to your point, Tom, the way that they like, to the system that they want to use.
Yeah. When we see contractors deploy the proper follow-up process, whether it's Hatch or they do it the old-fashioned way of, a CSR following up, but if they just build that into the customer journey and they make it non-negotiable, Kristen, it's one of the happiest experiences when I talk to contractors, whether I visit them at their shop or I see them at a convention, and they say, look at the money we've made by closing the loop and fixing our follow-up process. Strip Matter Heating and Cooling, Joe Strip Matter, anecdotally, I remember a couple of years ago, he had installed Hatch, and I was talking to his marketing team, and they're like, look, here's where they come in. This is where we start following up, and look at the money. And I'm just looking at the dashboard and going, that's tons of money you're now getting.
Absolutely. I remember that
really cool.
We did a video because Casey Spray or Strawberry at the time, she's like, I told my technicians, like, I love you all to death, but like, she had her Southern accent. She's like, but your follow-up game is weak sauce. And it's true. Like we've talked to Rescue Air, every HVAC company we talk to, they're like, nobody wants to do follow-up. And it makes sense, right? Like you should do it. It's like going to the gym, you should do it, but you don't do it. And the thing is, it's hard because it in some ways, companies will see that as overhead because they're like, well, now I've got to hire somebody to do follow-up. And like, why would I follow up on a quote that hasn't closed? And it's like, no, actually, the number of people that actually do close, because not closing in the home is it doesn't mean that the deal is gone. So you're recovering tons of lost revenue there. And then also, no, you don't have to hire somebody to do it. If you have the right tools, you can have one person managing a tool that does it all for you.
Yeah, absolutely. The ancillary indirect benefits of mastering follow-up, making it non-negotiable, Kristen, the other indirect benefits that you get is you start finding out why they didn't buy from you.
Exactly.
You start finding out that I've got a bad egg in the bunch. You start finding out I really don't have a customer service experience that is helping to justify my pricing.
Yep.
All this feedback prior to mastering follow-up, all this feedback you just don't have.
Exactly.
You just are like the typical contractor, which is like, well, I gave them a quote and I hadn't heard back from them. And I don't know, I'll try to call them, but I'm real busy.
Right. Because you have new leads coming in, new appointments to run.
Yeah.
Rescue Air, they Michael and Josh, they said they had made a great point. Once they started implementing estimate follow-up with Hatch, the technicians started leaving better estimates. He said that before Hatch, it was cookie cutter. They'd go in, they'd leave 3 estimates and they'd leave. Next house, go in, leave 3 estimates and leave. And then when they implemented Hatch, Hatch was doing that message that was like, hey, how did your appointment go? We want to make sure you had a good experience. So once the technicians knew that they were reaching out to get feedback from the customer and the customer was providing that feedback, they were starting to leave better estimates, closing more in home. And then on top of that, it's a weird kind of like counter effect, but most of our customers give the sales rep, or the technician, they give them 1 or 2 days to follow up. If they didn't close in the home, they give them a certain time period. After that time period is gone, well, the Hatch automated message is going to go out. And if that deal ends up closing, their commission is less because they didn't do that follow-up. So when they know that Hatch is going to do the outreach, if they don't, it prompts them to do that follow-up so that Hatch doesn't do the follow-up. So then it becomes them like trying to make it so that you don't need Hatch. So that's good. They start closing more deals. But if you take Hatch away, they go back to their old ways, because it's a level of accountability and it's a level of customer service that you wouldn't otherwise have gotten that feedback.
Yeah, if Kristen, if we speak of the best practices of follow-up and we look at the SOPs, the standard operating policies that you need to policies and procedures you need to build out to make sure that it's always done every single time without you having to nag and complain and threaten that these follow-ups are done. There's 5 steps, and this is something these guys may want to write down that are on the call. There's 5 steps to proper implementation, and they're universal to anything you want to plan to implement in your organization. In this case, we're talking about follow-up. Ideally follow up with automation with Hatch, but here's the 5 steps. The first one is planning before you launch Hatch or any follow-up process. You got to write it all down. You got to write it down. This is how we're going to launch it. These are the standard operating procedures on how we're going to execute on it. This is how we're going to communicate the change to the team. You carve out time. Either your marketing team or the owner sits down and builds out the launch plan. Everything. This is how we're going to communicate it. This is how we're going to get buy-in. So the first step is planning. Second step, this is how we're going to communicate it to the team. Third is buy-in. You got to get buy-in. And normally, if you don't have buy-in, it doesn't last. It's not effective.
Yeah.
And buy-in needs to be win-win. When a typical technician says, "Hey, let me get this straight, Kristen. You are going to help me you're going to take over the follow-up, so I don't have to run around trying to keep track of all these customers that I gave estimates to. You're taking it over. You're going to help me close the deal, and that's going to help me make more income." Yes, that's all part of the buy-in when it's a win-win process. The fourth step is execution. You've got to execute it right. They got to know well in advance, here, this is when we go live. Here's the training. Here's the role playing or whatever. Okay, we're going to get all that done. And then the last step to proper implementation, in this case, we're talking about follow-up, is you got to have accountability built in. You got to have accountability built in. And so that goes back. You got to build the accountability into your planning work, embed that into your standard operating procedures so they know, okay, you have to put a quote that looks like this so that our Hatch team knows how to follow up.
Yep.
And so you build all that in, and then the accountability says, here's the consequences if you continue to violate the process. So those 5 steps: planning, communication, buy-in, execution, and accountability. If they do those things and they don't deviate, they do 5 out of the 5, not 3 out of the 5, follow-up will happen all the time, even when the owner is on the beach.
Love it. I want to share here, Chad and Maya, you guys both responded about having a customer journey. So Chad, love to see that you guys documented and produced a whiteboard video for your teams to enjoy, which is great. Chad, let me know if you want to do a webinar with me on customer journey mapping. Maybe we can teach some people a thing or two about it. And Maya said that is my next step after investigating lifetime revenue, getting DSR to make notes from happy calls, trying to piece the puzzle together to see where customers are dropping off. Totally, Maya. There is one question. I know we only have a couple minutes left. Before I answer the question, I am going to launch this poll. So like we said, if you are a Hatch customer and you want to learn, like maybe you want to make sure your account is optimized. We're always coming out with new updates. If you're not using Hatch AI and you want to give that a free trial, raise your hand. We will be more than happy to reach out to you. If you're not a Hatch customer and you want to learn more, also raise your hand. You can choose that option on your screen. We will be happy to give you a personalized demo. Same thing for Service Nation. If you are not a Service Nation member and you want to learn about getting into a network of people that can advise you to get to the next stage of growth for your business, whether that's marketing advice, payment, pricing, hiring. It's an all-in-one. It's an all-in-one best practices kind of, what's the word? Fair. I'm not really finding the right word, but party.
Kristen, we call ourselves the Amazon of home service consulting groups. We got it all. We got it
So
all.
if you want to dive into the Amazon of home services consulting, choose option B. If you're already a Service Nation member, maybe you haven't connected in a while, maybe you want to go over your benefits, maybe you just, maybe this kind of inspired you and you were like, hey, I need some help with my branding. Pick option B. And then, of course, if you want to be contacted by both Hatch and Service Nation, choose option C. And Maya, I'm really excited to see you've been in conversation with Matt about next steps. That's so exciting. And Maya, you were the one that asked a question in here. We use Service Nation for 3 of our brands. Does Hatch integrate seamlessly like it does with Service Titan? That I actually don't know, Maya, on the spot. So I will defer. I'll have you, if you're already in touch with Matt, I'm assuming it's Matt V. I'll ping him and make sure that he's aware that you have that question. But for those of you who, what I can say is Hatch does integrate with most CRMs. Service Fusion, sorry, did I say Service Nation? You wrote Service Fusion, so you had it right. I must have said Service Nation. There's so many Service Titan, Service Fusion, Service Nation. Well, anyway, we integrate with your CRM, and the whole point of that is so that you can create those customer journey touch points. Installation is complete or backup. Estimate has been given. Maybe they have been a customer, they've been dormant for a year. Maybe they got HVAC done and you want to let them know that you do plumbing. Maybe you're the job board is empty for the rest of the week and you want to get in some tune-ups. Maybe you want to do a marketing promotion campaign. Pretty much any data point in your CRM, we can target that with Hatch. So Tom, I want to really just thank you for your time today. This was a lot of fun. Any other final closing remarks?
Well, I just want to wish all the contractors in the home service space the best. It's a very, very tough business. All your inventory, all your people, they leave your shop every single day. I mean, home service contractors, they have grit. They're tough. They're salt of the earth. Good people. So, utilizing Hatch to grow your company is beneficial. If we can help you, we want to help you. But I just want to continue to cheer on the home service contractor because it's a great career. It's a great industry.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate your time today. And everybody else who joined, thank you. And Maya and Chad, thanks for your participation. Maya, you made a great comment on here that Hatch is more robust than Service Titan Marketing Pro. Just different products. I mean, Marketing Pro is really great for sending marketing emails and doing sort of that mass outreach. But as you guys now know, Hatch is really designed for those one-to-one conversations and being able to manage those at scale. So thank you guys. I will let you know that the recording will go out automatically. You'll get that sent to you like within the hour. And then we always do a little written recap, and get the bullet points. And then that'll also have a link to the recording in there. We'll send that out to you guys tomorrow. All right. Well, thanks again, Tom. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys all have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, Kristen. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.